Hey guys, it's mcfixit here. We're working on a 2016 Hyundai Tucson. This is the all-wheel drive edition of the Tucson, and we're going to be working on the front brakes in this video. I'll show you all the tools, the supplies, the techniques on how you can do this and make sure you get new brake pads done properly on the back and the front. So here are the tools and the supplies that I used. For the front brakes, it was an NAD 1847, and then it's a 48 on the back. These are by Carquest. They're probably the cheaper ones you can get at a store. They make lots of different brands and styles. These are just basic ceramic ones. I used an impact gun and a 21 millimeter. This one did have a couple of those locking lug nuts, so I did have to use the specialty key that comes with it. A 14 millimeter with a socket and a 14 millimeter wrench. I used a 10 millimeter for the bleeder brake, and then I also have a little bottle that I have a hose hooked up to. I used a flathead. You will need a torque stick. It's 80 foot-pounds for the lug nuts, 25 for the brake caliper bolts. I used brake clean. I used a brake caliper lubrication .3. You might need some paper towels. You may need something to kind of catch some of the debris in, so you can use cardboard. You could use some kind of pan or something like that. I used a block 4x4 in the back and then in the front to block off the wheels, jack stands, and jack. And those are all the tools and supplies I used. You might need something more. I did end up using this because I did not bring a rubber mallet. I had to beat a few different times some of the brake pads out, and so I used that and the screwdriver. But that's all the tools and supplies I used. And also, I forgot this, you will need one of these just compress the brake caliper. Pretty inexpensive. Go ahead and buy one if you're going to do your brakes. Good tool to have, pretty inexpensive as well. So when doing the front brakes, you are going to want to make sure you come in here and you do push down on your emergency brake, and then go ahead and pop the trunk. Or pop the hood, I'm sorry, I called it the trunk. The bonnet if you're from England. And you're gonna come to the front. Go ahead and open up, put up the hood latch, and you will need eventually to get in here and go ahead, not yet, but eventually you will want to go ahead and untwist that when you are compressing the caliper and bleeding the brakes. The fluid looks really good on this one, but this one does use .3. I believe also .4 is what I read online, but it is almost to max, so we are good. So the first thing you're gonna do is go ahead and jack up on that weld point. So that pinch weld is right underneath here. So I just like it about an inch or so off the ground. And because that pinch weld is exactly where you're supposed to put the jack stand, I'm just putting the jack next to it. If you want to find a way to make it happen the other way, I just couldn't find any other place to jack this particular vehicle up. 21 millimeter, make sure you're in reverse. And I did find out this part is actually from Hyundai. I think that's how you say it. And I'll show you how this works a little up close. It's got this beautiful little star pattern, and you do want to make sure it's completely locked in. Go ahead and knock the tire off. Sometimes you do have to kick it off. Just depends how long it's been and where you live. We're up in the north, so a lot of times you do have to kick those off. Sometimes it does come back to hit you too. Be careful. But that corrosion in the north is absolutely no joke. So the front ones are nice. They don't have the brake line in the way. So all you need is a 14 millimeter. And because this is a newer vehicle, you can hit these out and pretty much spin them off by hand. I am shocked with only 40,000 miles how much these brake pads are pretty much gone. We'll see what these front ones are. The back ones were pretty bad. So I like to go ahead and just kind of set that up there. And then it has these little clips. You just use flathead, pop these clips out. We will save these and put these back in. Very important to put these back in. So this one still has a little bit left. This has pretty much nothing left. So I'm using a flathead, not hitting the rotor. The rotor looks like it's in really good shape. We will save this because we're going to use this. You can tell that's right where the end of the brake life is. You can see it probably has, no, there's no markings. That's good. So it was real close to where it would start marking up your rotor. Pop that out, pop that out. Go ahead and use your screwdriver. Go ahead and pry these up. Get you a little better camera angle there. And then this one will get pried down. We will want to go ahead and clean these. So go ahead and put them down. Get some brake cleaner. Both sides nice and good. Grab a second paper towel and just start cleaning them up. We are going to apply brake caliper grease to this because it does help with any potential squeaking or wear and rub. And it's pretty inexpensive. I got a big thing because I do brakes a lot for different people. So hopefully in the near future, you'll probably see another brake job or two. I just did them right before I really got into YouTube on all of my personal vehicles. So this is my sister-in-law's. Just a little bit. You don't need a lot. And you're gonna go ahead and just kind of paint them. You're not putting a lot, remember. It's not super craziness. It's just where metal meets metal, never on the brake pad. And really not on the caliper as well. The actual surface of the caliper. Then you just go ahead and stick that down, and I just got some on the surface of the caliper. I will need to remove that as quick as possible. That is not what you want. Same thing on the top one. These are reversible on this vehicle. I think most of them are. I've not had one that is not, but I'm sure they probably make one because engineers are my favorite. I was going to be one, and then I'm not. So whatever. That's life. Right there. All done with that part. We'll still need to put some on the back side. Let me say that again. The back side of the pads. You should have one piece that has this metal piece, and that will tell you, it's kind of a wear indicator. That one goes on the back. This one goes on the front. We'll go ahead and put the front one on first. And just like that, it went in. Go ahead and put the back one on, and then I'll show you where I put just a touch of that brake grease as well. I seem to always have problems with the back one. The front one sometimes goes on real easy. It's probably because you can't see the back one. And the camera's kind of in my view as well, so that happens a lot. Another thing is you do want to make, oh, I don't think I was all the way down on that side. Again, don't even touch that with your hands with that greasy stuff. There it is. So the brake caliper comes here in a circle on the back. And so that is what we're going to do the last little bit of grease. So some right here, some right here, and then a little circle right there in the back. Go ahead and go to the vehicle engine bay and go ahead and undo the cap. And so that way when we're pressing back the caliper, it has air and room to move and hopefully not create air bubbles. You don't want to leave that off the whole time because you can get condensation in there. I think I mentioned that already, but just a word of advice, you don't want air bubbles and condensation in your brake lines. So go ahead and just open this up. spins off to the left, and I would just set it upside down right next to that. That is still really full, so we should be really good. And then go ahead and grab one of your brakes, and you're gonna put it just how it was on your vehicle. And then we'll go ahead and get our tool, and you're gonna slide the tool down and over, just like this. And then you are going to go ahead and begin to spin it. You're gonna go ahead and begin to spin it. Once it gets to where you're moving it, you're just gonna spin it 1 revolution and stop. 1 revolution and stop. Be careful not to bend this line. It is flexible, and it's pretty flexible, but you just don't want to ruin it. Give it a couple of seconds between each time. Seems silly, I know, but it really is important. And because we're going from no pads to a whole lot of pads, we do want to be careful with making sure it's back pretty much as far as it will go, but don't force it. That's not the goal. Okay, go ahead and remove that, screw it undone, remove that. And one last thing, I almost forgot. This is super, super easy to do. Forget to do this step right here. Go ahead and put these back in. These ones do have the holes. There's the front, the top, and here's the bottom. It is very easy to forget this step. In fact, I did that when I was doing this on the other side. I don't know why. I just wasn't thinking, I guess. And actually, I need to tighten that down a little bit more. Sometimes you didn't tighten it down enough. We are going from really like no brake pads to a whole lot of brake pads. It was very close, but was not enough. Yeah, there it goes. And then I'll show you how I go ahead and put that on. Go ahead and twist that off. Yeah, I think that should be compressed enough now. You don't want to like beat it on. Okay, and then sometimes it feels like it doesn't want to go on. You have to compress those 2 pieces. That is where your bolts go in. Then go ahead and grab those 14mm bolts. And you will have to align them. I do like to start them by hand, actually quite a bit. Then we will tighten them down to spec, which is 25 foot-pounds of torque. So we'll move off our regular 3/8 ratchet onto a torque ratchet, 3/8 as well, and you just go ahead and start to spin it. And you heard it click there, so that's done. Oh, came off with it. And that clicked, so that's 25 foot-pounds, 25 foot-pounds. We're gonna go ahead and get the bleeder screw taken off. Then we will go ahead and bleed this brake system on this one. Sometimes these are a pain in the butt. You just keep going back and forth. And eventually it comes off. Make sure to save those. So it's gonna use a 10mm. You can go ahead and put your 10mm on it. There it goes. And then this little contraption that I have created is just a really small tube that fits over it into a Gatorade bottle. And go ahead and put that just like that. And then you're gonna have somebody in the vehicle. They're gonna press down on the brake. And so it'll be 1, they'll let go, 2, let go, 3, and hold. I'll go ahead and brake it if I see it and it looks really clear, or not clear, just the fluid looks normal, no air bubbles. We'll probably do it once or twice. If you see air bubbles, you keep doing that until you don't see air bubbles. So we'll go ahead and have the person start. You may begin to see right here. So go ahead and start. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Now they're holding. You're going to go ahead and break it open. There were a couple of air bubbles in that. You might be able to see it on camera, not certain. So we'll have them do it again. There's 2, there's 3, and now they're holding. And that was better. No air bubbles. So we're going to have them do it one more time just to make sure. Go ahead. There's 1, there's 2, here's 3, and there's no air bubbles. So we're good. And I do let that drain for just a couple of seconds down into that tube. Then we'll go ahead and pull this off. We'll spray everything down after we put this cap back on with a brake cleaner. Then we'll go ahead and put the tire back on and move to the other side. Do give that a minute or two to dry before you go ahead and put your tire back on. Because I have cardboard underneath, I'm going to go ahead and remove this and get the tire ready to go. So go ahead and lift your tire up. Go ahead and grab your lug nuts. Okay, you're going to use your cardboard again. This is a great time to make sure you remove that out of the way. We'll go ahead and remove the jack. And then we will go ahead and get this to 80 foot-pounds. This is a ratchet that has and you heard it click each time twice. That means we're all set. We'll go ahead and go to the other side. So this is going to be hard to see, but about right here is the pinch weld. Once it's jacked up, you'll probably be able to see it. I can't get that camera angle. So go ahead and start raising your jack on that pinch weld. And as you begin to jack it up, it should start raising the car up. And you'll see the tires slowly come off of the ground, and that's exactly what we want. Because there's no front place to go ahead and put that, we're gonna just gonna put the jack stand right next to this. I don't always prefer to do this. I am not gonna lower it down because I don't wanna ruin this jack stand hitting up underneath here and ruining. So I'm gonna leave this here. There is a jack stand right next to it, just for safety and security, but I normally don't just leave the weight of my car on this, but I'm going to have to do that because the place you're supposed to jack up is here, not here. So do be very careful with this. Do not knock this over or anything like that. So this thing has 4 regular lug nuts, and then it has a specialty lug nut, and you will want to make sure that specialty lug nut is on there correctly, which that is tight on there now. So we'll go ahead and begin to spin it off. So that's that special lug nut. And this is that tool. I don't know if this is the original one because this is a used vehicle, but it says Megard 064155. And you'll need that for each and every lug nut. That is that specialty one. The other 4 will just be a 21 millimeter. You do not have to use an impact gun. It just makes it go a lot quicker. Then I always put a piece of cardboard underneath. Most people get lots of packages today, so you normally have something that can go under, helps keep your driveway clean. And then I normally just hit the top, and it normally pops it right off. And just roll that right out of the way. Set it on the ground. And then we're gonna get you a little better camera angle because we're gonna be working right over here on these brake pads. So this is, it uses a 14mm socket, and we will go ahead and begin to remove it. And just like that. And because this is a newer vehicle, it's only a few years old, I can get these pretty much out by hand once you get them started. Go ahead and grab a flathead and begin to remove. You just kind of pry up. Be careful not to hit your rotors, but you just begin to pry on both sides, and this will begin to come out. And as your caliper comes out, you might be tempted to set it on the ground. Do not do that. You can just kind of flip it over and set it up here. If you have a bucket or something, sometimes I do that. Put the bucket off to the side. Do not pinch this. You're gonna be in a world of trouble if you do. So the next thing we need to do is go ahead and remove these clips. We do need to save these and the other pieces of hardware because it did not come with new ones. So this little clip, and again, I'm just using a flathead on this. And they are pretty tight when you put them in, and then they will expand back out. Then we'll go ahead and take off the brake pads themselves. And again, you can use whatever kind of thing that you have. I just am putting it on the brake pad and just using my hand to be able to kind of knock it off. I'm gonna try my very best not to actually damage the surface of these rotors because these ones are in good shape. If you have like a rubber mallet, you could use that too and kind of do what I'm doing here. But it's just working them off. Again, doing your best not to damage. And these ones do appear, I did not see this at the beginning, some kind of like little push tab right here. And I think that's what I was getting caught up on. Yep, that's what it was. And so it's probably on the back side. So right here, if you just push down with your screwdriver, that did come out. Oh, it fell. So that is why she was having brake issues. There is a lot more pad. I just chipped that one off a little, but there is not much pad on the back one and quite a bit more on the front one. As you can see, all of the lines are gone, which is a good indicator that you're getting to wear. And it's really close to where she would start hearing the noise on that little warning that it gives you. So these are the part. This is a Carquest. It's an NAD 1847, and these are for the front, and the 48 is for the back. Lots of different options on brakes today. I don't buy the most expensive ones anymore. I used to. Decided I don't really care that much because a lot of places stop doing lifetime warranties that are really lifetime warranties, and so I just kind of go with whatever. And so there's little rubber bands you get to take off. Kind of helps keep them together when shipping, I'm sure. Another thing I like to do is I like to go ahead and get these brackets off. We're going to clean them up and grease them up. It is important to remember what direction they go as well. It's pretty obvious what direction, but it is good to remember that situation. And so we're going to clean those up. I did want to show one thing real quick. So this is the old black back plate, and this is the new one, and you can see the difference in thickness. Drastically different. The wear grooves are almost gone on this one. And then here's the other new one. A little different wear grooves, but pretty much identical. You do want to check to make sure it looks like it's going to be a very, very similar fit, which it does. I'm going to go ahead and take these and clean these up. So grab yourself some brake cleaner, whatever kind you want to use. Go ahead and grab these, and we're just going to go ahead and spray them off. And this stuff does really good at cleaning up. Also, it kind of air dries it, and it's good to go after it's air dried. You can also grab another paper towel or two if you would like. but I do like them. They do a pretty good job. But yeah, like I said, you can air dry them or grab a paper towel. I'm gonna do a paper towel just to speed up the process so I can show you guys quicker how to do it. The other thing I like to do is I actually like to use disc brake caliper lube. You are never to apply this to the front of the brake. This only goes on some of the components. This is kind of a weird green color, but this stuff works pretty well. You do not want to apply too much. This is not like a contest to see how much you can get on things, but you do want to put it. It does help reduce some of the brake noise and just make sure everything is exactly how it should be. And so just a little bit. It's pretty much where the metal rubs metal, not where the brake pad rubs anything. Might be a good way to remember it. And you go ahead and put it in. I'm not sure if you saw that. I just literally just set it right in, and they go right back in really well. Same thing with the other one. Again, it's where that brake pad is going to sit, and where this is going to rub on to the caliper bracket. And again, it's not a contest of putting tons and tons on. Just a nice little bit goes a long way and really does help out. Same thing here. You're just going to kind of finagle it into place, and it doesn't really snap into place, but it definitely fits into place. Have some paper towels nearby because this stuff does kind of get everywhere. And just like that, that one snapped in. Now make sure you put the one with the piece of metal here on the back side. That's going to let you know when it is time to get new brakes. Had to get a little different angle. And that did not seat in there very well the first time, so make sure that is properly seated. And so it should look like this. You should see with this brand, you should see the two little holes. That's your wear lines. Then the other thing I do like to do, where this caliper is going to hit, which is going to be right here and right here, there's a metal piece. I'm not putting this on the brake pad or the rotor, just on this metal piece on the back side. Same thing right there. And I am going to put the same thing in a little circle on the back. Sorry, I can't really show you a good camera angle, but that will just kind of help out. Now at this point, you do need to go ahead and grab and open up your brake reservoir on the top next to the master cylinder, because we're going to compress the caliper now. So go ahead and just open this up. Spins off to the left, and I would just set it upside down right next to that. That is still really full, so we should be really good. So go ahead and take your caliper, the old brake pad that went on the back side, go ahead and put that in. And you're going to need one of these tools, and these just help compress that caliper. You do want to make sure it's nice and lined up in the center and in the center here. So I'm going to raise it up just a touch, and I'm going to begin to spin this. I go slow, maybe a revolution at most at a time, because what it's going to do is going to filter up back some of that brake fluid. That's why we have that reservoir open. Give it a couple of seconds, then about another revolution. Nice thing is this is the OME brand one. Don't really care what the brand is because they all work the same. But it does help me to kind of remember. Let's get it back to where it says OEM every time you turn it. And it will have to be pretty much fully compressed when you put this on there, because you're putting new brake pads on. These tools are pretty inexpensive, and I would encourage you just to buy one outright. You can rent them from different places if that's something you'd like to do, but you don't really have to. I know some people don't do what I'm doing here, and that's fine. This is my preference. I want to make sure I do my sister-in-law's vehicle correctly, and so it takes a few extra seconds. And it's okay to have patience. I know that's not a very sought after thing today, but I don't mind. So maybe one more turn. And as I'm letting that sit, I'm going to move the camera back so you can see how I put it back on. So that's ready to go. You go ahead and untwist that. Comes off pretty easily. And you can just set your brake pad down. So on this front ones, make sure you put these back in, or else you'll have to take everything back apart and put them back in. And so they go just like that. Go ahead and slide this on and into place. Remember, you're gonna have to push in these little brackets here, and those 14 millimeters are just gonna come right up and in. Make sure it's nice and lined up. You're going for 25 foot-pounds of torque here. And it clicks and you're done. Clicks and you're done. That's 25, 25, 14 millimeter. We got to go ahead and bleed this brake. I think I did mention that we're gonna do it with the tire on. Not gonna do that. If you want to, you can turn your tire sideways and do that, but I already have it jacked up, so we're just gonna do it this way. So go ahead and grab your 10 millimeter. Go ahead and put that on. This one has just a little bit of rust on it, so you do want to make sure it's seated properly. Go ahead and grab your little hose line. It goes down to your Gatorade or a pop bottle or whatever you have, and we're going to bleed these brakes. So you're going to have the person do that 1, 2, 3 and hold, and then you're going to go ahead and loosen it. It'll come out. So go ahead and go. There's 1, there's 2, 3 and hold. And there's just a little bit of air bubbles in there. Not sure if you saw it, so we'll go ahead and do it again. Go ahead. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. They're holding, and that was perfect. There's no more air bubbles in that. That line is good. You can go ahead and take this off. Remove your 10 millimeter, and make sure you don't drip all over the driveway. Go ahead and put that cap back on. And then we'll go ahead and spray this all down with a little bit of brake cleaner. You can give it a lot actually, because it is good to make sure everything's nice and clean. Now that you have that done, go ahead and let that sit for a minute or so, and then we'll go ahead and put the tire back on and lower the jack down. Another thing you're really going to make sure that you do is you keep an eye on your tank of brake fluid and make sure that it does not go below that minimum. So you need to add fluid. There is really no rise or fall in this because we only got maybe an ounce out of it, and it looks like it's identical to where it was because we put new brake pads on. So this one is pretty much ready to rock and roll. I am going to leave the cardboard in case there's any other little drips, and then we'll remove that before we tighten down the lug nuts and lower the jack. So go ahead and get your tire. Go ahead and put your tire on. Gonna go ahead and grab the lug nuts, spin them on by hand. And then go ahead and start spinning all these on by hand while it is still jacked up. And you may need to push against it or put your foot against it to make sure it is nice and flush on that front wall. Gonna go ahead and remove the jack stand and the jack. And then we will go ahead and do this by hand. It is 80 foot-pounds of torque. So we're gonna go in that star pattern again. So that clicked, that's good. Then I'm just gonna test them all. Okay, that's all of them. Make sure your cap is back on the top. I did that while it was draining the brake cleaner, and we'll go ahead and shut the hood. Great time to go ahead and check to make sure you are good as well. Use .3 on this vehicle. If you are not, go ahead and lower this back in, click that into place, drop the hood. We're ready for a test drive. I hope this was helpful. Please like, subscribe, give me any comments if you have them, if I can help you in any other way. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great day.